So first, we want to thank FII and our friends in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for inviting us here to speak with all of you. Thank you very much. Gavin and I are here together because we collaborate very closely on artificial intelligence investments because we share the same thesis. Our relationship goes back more than a decade. Started with Tesla, has become very close over time. And I'm going to ask Gavin to start with our thesis. Gavin, will you tell people what we think here?
Sure. So wanted to echo all of Antonio's thoughts of gratitude towards FII and all of our hosts for having us here. I think we share the thesis that when there is a fundamental platform shift from the mini computer to the PC and the client server, to the mobile phone, to the cloud, and now to AI, the safest and best way to invest at the beginning of that fundamental platform shift is at the infrastructure layer, which I'm going to talk about, and I'll let you talk about the verticalized apps that come later. And the infrastructure layer is particularly important with AI because a GPU, which 2 years ago, not many people have heard of. I'm a gamer, so I had heard of it, and I was the NVIDIA analyst back in the year 2000, so I've heard of it for a long time. GPU is about half the size of this iPhone. It is made from sand. Taiwan Semi does amazing things to that sand and sells it to NVIDIA for $700 to $800, that die. NVIDIA then sells that for $50,000 to companies like Microsoft and Amazon and Google. And that is probably the biggest markup in human history, significantly bigger than the Birkin bag, for instance. And
basically selling drugs.
Yes.
It's like narcotics.
Yes.
For nerds.
Narcotics for nerds is a great way to describe it. Yes,
like
exactly.
That. Yeah.
And if you think of, Jensen likes to call data centers AI factories, I think maybe an easier, more facile analogy is to think of them as restaurants. And the GPU, that $50,000 chip, half the size of an iPhone, is the star chef. And it has gotten 50 times faster in the last 4 years, which is a big part of why we're living through this AI revolution. The problem is, it's got a convection oven, all sorts of things. It's much faster. All the other ingredients in the restaurant, all the other parts in that supply chain have only gotten 2 or 3 times faster. So the food needs to be delivered, the sous chef needs to prepare it. And because the GPU has gotten so much faster, it is doing nothing most of the time. 70% of the time, it's doing nothing. It's just drawing power. So our kind of shared core infrastructure level thesis is we're investing in things that increase the GPU utilization rate. Because if you can take that GPU from being utilized 30% of the time to 60% of the time, you've doubled the output of that restaurant or that AI factory. And this is particularly important for AI because we've gotten used to a world where compute and computation is essentially free. Everybody in this room is an investor has heard that software is zero marginal cost, and it has almost no marginal cost to produce even in the cloud. This is not true of AI. Every time you ask ChatGPT or Grok a question, a lot of compute is happening, and it's extremely expensive. And the bottleneck is about to shift from GPU availability to power availability. It is possible that we will face a global power shortage in the next few years because of AI's ever-increasing demands for power. And a great way to deal with that is right now that GPU is consuming full power 100% of the time, doing nothing 70% of the time. And if you can drive the utilization up, that's going to be great. And so we have a lot of shared investments in kind of storage, networking, and memory technologies that improve the utilization rate of those GPUs. Antonio, maybe you want to talk about the other part of our...
Gavin's background in semis has been super useful to us, and we have a long background in artificial intelligence, dates back to DeepMind. I'm going to go quickly because we're going to run out of time otherwise. Okay. So our thesis is informs what we do and what we don't do. So we are investing in what we call verticalized applications. These are applications that have very definitive data moats and reinforcement learning that either exist because the software is being used in a way that reinforces the data, or there's a piece of hardware or robotics that reinforces that learning as well. We think that the only valuable assets in the entire stack are going to ultimately be that have margin that can be that can create, we'll call it a data moat that creates large margin going downstream, is the data and the reinforcement learning. Those are the most important parts. The models will basically compete to zero, and because the models are free. So to Gavin's point, the data center is a commodity. Energy, it might be a shortage for a while, but it's also a commodity. The models are free. In that entire supply chain, all we really see from end to end that has real value is going to be in the data moat and the reinforcement learning. We're investing in companies in that space. And so this is about $1 trillion companies, though, Gavin. So people want to know what we think, what you think about a $1 trillion company. I'll do a public. Since you're in the public business, why don't you do a couple of privates, and we can trade back and forth.
Sure. Well, based on the framework you just outlined, I do think if you're a foundation model company and you are not attached to a major internet platform for distribution and reinforcement learning, and you don't have proprietary data, your value is going to asymptote to zero very quickly. But if you're a foundation model company attached to a giant internet platform with proprietary data, I think you're going to be immensely valuable. There are only a few of these. There's Google, but it's already a multi-trillion-dollar company. There's Microsoft and OpenAI, multi-trillion-dollar plus 90 billion. And Meta is chosen to make their AI available for free, open source. The only one left is xAI. And I submit to you I think it's a reasonably high confidence hypothesis that the sum of xAI and X will be worth more than $1 trillion because it has some of the most valuable proprietary data in the world for training these models and a lot of distribution to help them learn. As far as a public company?
I agree with you, Gavin, by the way. Yes. Public company, at the risk of being accused of bias, and I have a large position in this company, so I'll say that up front. I think Tesla will be the next public company you see past $1 trillion enterprise value for artificial intelligence as an AI company, not as an EV company, or a mobility company, but as an AI company, because people underestimate the impact of FSD version 12. When you use this product, you will see it drives like a human, and that will blow you away. And then at some point, you've seen videos of Optimus, and I think people sort of they undervalue or don't believe quite what's happening with Optimus when they see the videos. But I've actually seen the robot itself operate. It is extraordinary. And imagine when you have the most complex thing a human does is drive a car. So we have a model at Tesla that knows how to drive a car and does that well like a human. You have a robot that operates like a human. You put those things together, you get a humanoid-style robot that then you can deploy in a factory and get reinforcement learning. So that lock-in between data moat, which is unassailable, by the way, does this unassailable data moat in humans driving a car, plus the lock-in of a robot working in a factory, doing all the things we do in a factory, right? What's the torque on the bolt? How do I not run into Gavin while I'm walking by him? Where's the bathroom? Whatever robots do, right? Those things are going to inform our training data by reinforcement learning of the robot itself. That will blow people away. And I think you'll see that, I don't know exactly when, but let's say in the next year or two, this will become more obvious, and it will accelerate the company. People will really see it as an AI company, which is what it is. That's my view.
AI and robotics.
Yes, and robotics.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. So the future of AI. What do you think happens next?
Well, I listened to this discussion this morning about regulation with interest, and I think this is a very, very dangerous topic. What we want as humans is a world where there are many, many different AIs. We want a multi-polarity of AIs. We don't want to live in a world where there's one AI superpower or two AI superpowers. So I do think in addition to those kind of, those three, the Grok, xAI, Google, OpenAI, Microsoft, it's great that Meta has open sourced their models. It's great that Mixtral exists. It's great that Google just open sourced a model. The most dangerous world for humans, and I would just say, if you run any survey of the top 1,000 people working on AI, and they call it P-doom, probability of doom, probability that AI is an extinction level event for humanity, they consistently poll it around, it's a 15% chance. So that's pretty high. Now there's an 85% chance it's amazing, but the most important thing to lower the odds of the 15% and improve the odds of the 85% being awesome are that we have many, many AIs, which increases the odds that at least some of them are friendly to us as humans. And I would say, I do think in terms of kind of the impact of AI, to build on some of Antonio's comments about Tesla's Optimus robot and robotics in general, there has been a lot of focus on the impact of AI on knowledge work and white-collar work. I think when we see AI, an LLM, dropped into a very functional humanoid robot, there may be an immense impact on blue-collar work, manual labor, and this may, it may seem very funny to historians that anyone was worried about inflation in front of this kind of tidal wave of kind of a deflation. I also think having embodied AIs in a robot may be very important to them progressing, becoming sentient, becoming conscious. There's a lot of thought that it is hard for an intelligence to become conscious without being embodied. But Antonio, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I agree with you with a lower probability set, I hope, on extinction level event. I have these red stocks, and if you notice, these are my Star Trek stocks, okay? Because I believe in a Star Trek future as opposed to Terminator future. And I think we are here to determine that happens. Events like this are very important because we're having these dialogues. This morning, Michael Dell mentioned this, which is the models we build as humans will be imbued with the values of their creators. And I started my career wanting to be a development economist, particularly in Latin America, and worked at Goldman Sachs in that area. And it's these questions about global south and global north that we have here at F5, I think are very important. This is a period of time where this particular technology can enable the rest of us, the people that are living in the global south, to equalize, I think, their living standard in a way that doesn't destroy the planet, because productivity will fundamentally change. It also is a time when LLMs, that are the powerful models you're talking about, they will be created in individual languages. So every country represented here, whether it's Arabic, if you're speaking Spanish, whatever language, we're in Miami, so I'll say Spanish, but Spanish and Arabic, the two languages there, the models we train in those languages with respect for your cultures, with respect for the local cultures, local values, and if those models are rational, they should cooperate. Like in Star Trek, they should actually cooperate. If they cooperate and they respect local cultures, local languages, then I think we end up in a Star Trek future. We end up in a place where humans are better off as a group in total, and the parts of the world that have been left behind, they can access technology. It's very easy. These models are basically free, and you can train them in local languages, right? Falcon in Arabic is a good example of this. This is why I think it's mostly going to be benign. I think people are overvaluing the possibility of a very negative future, and Gavin is right. The key to a positive future is multi-model, I call it multipolarity, so that each country and each individual group can train their models in their ways with their values to protect them, and also to cooperate with other models that may be trained with other values. And if they're told to cooperate, the machines will cooperate, so they're told to do.
And the ultimate multipolarity is where each human has its own AI that is, trained on our own personality, on our own values, and is definitionally friendly to us. And I do think AI may eventually be mediated through brain-computer interfaces, and we may co-evolve rather than having kind of, AIs embodied in robots is probably a first step, and that's a good step, I think, on balance for the world. But I think a future where we co-evolve as a species with AIs and we all have our own personal, individual AI, that would be an awesome future, and that would be the ultimate Star Trek future.
We're going for Star Trek.
We're going for Star Trek.
All right, Gavin, thank you.
Thanks,
great.
Guys. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, brother.